right. So welcome, Alyce, to the Mom Room podcast.
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me, RENEE.
Of course. So before I pressed record, Alyce was like, I need to hear about Harry Styles. So what do you need to know?
Everything. I want to know how it even happened. Like, how did your grandma even get up on stage to give him that? And when I saw that, I didn't know it was your grandma. And I saw that and I was like brought to tears, and I told everybody about it. I was like, I don't know who this woman was, obviously some actor and someone who's very important. But when she gave it to him and the way he hugged her, I was sobbing. And then I found out it was your grandma. I'm like, how did this all come about?
Like, it was the cutest thing in the world. It couldn't have went better. Like, it was just like out of a movie. So I went home for Christmas, and during like a family regular gathering, she was explaining to everybody why Harry Styles was the absolute best entertainer. Like, he's so humble. He's the nicest person. And I thought it was funny. And I was sitting next to her. So I secretly filmed her talking about Harry for like 10 minutes. It was like a 10-minute video. And then I cut it up and put it on TikTok. And obviously it blew up. And then a producer from the Grammys happens to be Harry Styles. Okay, the executive producer of the Grammys happens to be Harry Styles' best friend. His name's Ben Winston. And so now I became friends with some of the Grammys producers that we were working with. But she told me that like he walked into a meeting one day and he was like, somebody find this woman with her TikTok.
Oh my gosh, RENEE.
I know, it's so like, this is the power of TikTok.
I can't. I love this. This has to be in a movie. This
I know,
has to
like
be
a documentary.
This is great. We need a part 2. I mean, I know part 2 was you actually then. So she was invited then to the Grammys with you.
Yeah, so every single artist that was nominated for Album of the Year had a super fan attend the Grammys for them. And so we went to LA the week before the Grammys, and we happened to be going to a Harry Styles concert there. And then they filmed a bunch of stuff for the Grammys with all the super fans. And then at the Grammys, they played clips of each little super fan explaining why their artist needed to win Album of the Year. And Harry, because like the super fans were sitting right with like just in behind, like where all the celebrities were sitting on the floor of the Grammys, like right there. Harry Styles was the only one who even acknowledged their super fan, which is shocking. Like, that blew my mind. He went up to my mère twice before she even presented him with the award. Yeah.
Doing what? Just saying hi?
Well, he recognized her because he walked past her when they were sitting down. So he like went up to her, like gave her a kiss on the cheek and was like, oh, thank you so much. Like, and then she was waiting in line to use the bathroom, and she had given one of the producers a greeting card, and she like wrote stuff in the card for Harry, and she asked one of the producers to get it to Harry. And I guess they did, because he came up to her when she was waiting in line for the bathroom and was like, thank you so much for your beautiful card.
Oh my gosh. Can I like love him even more?
I know. I was never like a big Harry, like he was just someone that had fun songs on TikTok. I never really thought twice about him. And then now I'm like, okay, he is so awesome.
He's amazing. And yeah. I mean, I don't know if he can even blow up more. I feel like he should be way bigger than Taylor Swift at this point, right? And this story is so, that is crazy. I mean, I feel like there should be a t-shirt of your mère and Harry.
I know.
Like a real cool rock and roll kind of t-shirt.
I think, she needs to make her own merch. So then after the Grammys happened, we started like a little fan, like a Harry Styles fan page on Instagram, and it's almost at 50,000 followers. Like,
oh gosh, how cute. What is it called?
It's called Leader of the Harrys.
Cute. Oh my gosh. Can she make t-shirts and merch?
Yeah.
That is so insane. Like,
Yeah. It's the cutest. Okay. I want to ask you about you, enough about Harry, even though he is my grandpa and I love talking about him. Um, I was excited to talk to you today because obviously I've been following you online for a long time. So impressed, like seeing everything that you have been doing. It's super inspiring, but I don't actually know a lot about you, like where you're from, how old your kids are. So maybe you could give us a little bit of background before we start chatting about other stuff.
yeah. So I'm originally from Canada, Vancouver, BC. So opposite coast from you. I know you're Toronto. And I grew up there. I was born in California, but as a baby, and I moved to Vancouver, Canada. So I consider myself as mostly Canadian. And then I moved to New York, trying to pursue, I don't know, graphic design in that field. I studied economics, but did not like that. So I always was like, okay, fine arts, I got to do something with art. And so I'm like in New York, working for an ad agency, and then was dabbling into improv, stand-up comedy. And then it didn't my I didn't really take my comedy seriously until becoming a mother, which is kind of odd because a lot of my material was pretty much the same as any single person living in New York. Small apartments, talking about rodents, talking about dating. And that turned into more like, let's talk about motherhood, make fun of how hard it is, and just like the funny struggles that we all go through. And that became kind of like my niche. And then I stumbled on Instagram after my second kid because I felt like it was a good way to work out my material. And then it just, start meeting all the Instagram moms who are the most supportive community, as you know. And that's how my numbers got up. It was just mom saying I'm going to share it. And then after the pandemic was over, we were doing Zoom shows. After that was over, I started having more of a fan base that would come to my shows because they wanted to, I guess, hear what I would say on stage, which is very different from what I post online. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. How old are your kids?
Oh yeah, I did answer that. 6 and 9, 2 boys.
6 and 9. Okay. So I'm curious what was your life in comedy and stand-up before kids to after? Because I feel like comedy is it's often in the evenings, which can be a struggle to even leave the house. So I'm assuming it was a lot easier to like go do shows before you had kids. And so now how do you balance all of that?
I love that question. So before kids, I did my 9 to 5 corporate job. Then I would hit like a couple bars, very divey, underground usually. Sometimes there were only like 1 or 2 people in the room. And it was like the back room of a restaurant. And it could be, and usually mostly guys, like the industry is already very male dominated, but in open mics, any random person can show up, pay $5 and be on the stage for 3 to 5 minutes.
Is it not terrifying? Like, is it terrifying?
It's terrifying to be on stage already, but then to be in a room in the back room with only 3 dudes that really know each other and they're all very bro-y and you're up on stage like, hey, I'm from Canada. It can get very intimidating and it could really turn you off too because you're not getting the response that you're trying to get when you're doing stand-up. So what changed was as soon as I got pregnant and I start showing, my jokes didn't really land because I was doing it to like 20, 30 something single males and they were like scoffing at jokes like about being pregnant. It wasn't like, about dating life.
Because it's not relatable to them.
Totally not relatable. I'm not talking about dicks,
Yeah.
And so I kind of got a little turned off. And my husband was also like, hey, you're like 6, 7 months pregnant. I don't want you going down these divey bars after work. Can you just come home? So when I was like pretty heavy, like 7 to 8 months, I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore. So then first baby was born. For 3.5 years, I just devoted my life to baby, like baby yoga class, baby sing along class. You know the deal, like trying to be the perfect mom, just everything about him. And I dabbled in other creative fields like photography and started doing some freelance design, graphic design, but it didn't fill my cup until my second baby was born. And he was probably like a few months old. And we were living in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, and it's a very cool neighborhood, has a really good nightlife. And just across the street was a comedy show going on. And I said to my husband, I'm like, hey, I'm just going to go by myself. It's like a 20-second walk. I'll be back after the show. I walked in. It was an all women's show. And I got all these feelings resurfaced. And I was like, oh my gosh, I think I know what's missing. I need to do comedy again. So I talked to the producer. I was so nervous. And I was like, hey, I'm Alyce. I also do comedy. I love comedy. And she's like, great, I'll put you on. And I'm like, what? Like, does she not know that I've been out of the circuit for like 4 years? But she didn't care. She's like, okay, I'll put you on next month. I got on. I bombed completely. And then no one wanted me on their shows. Like I would write to producers. I would get ghosted. Nobody wanted this Asian female who has 2 kids, who has mom material. Like no one wanted to hear that. So then I was like, I'm just going to produce my own show. I'll do it the way I want. I'm going to do like a morning comedy show. I'll book the comics. And I made a show called BYOB Comedy in Brooklyn. It stands for Bring Your Own Baby. And so this was for moms, new moms who want adult time, who wanted to go see a comedy show but couldn't stay out till, past 8 p.m. So they would bring their newborns, babies, or toddlers, and they would sit there while their babies were crawling on sanitized mats and playing with toys. And they would enjoy like a 45-minute comedy show. And they were comics comics from Jimmy Fallon, David Letterman, HBO, Comedy Central. And after 45 minutes, the babies were tired and ready for a nap. And the moms were, I fed them cookies. So they were like happy and they had their adult time and they had like a community. They start forming friendships, which was the best part. I saw people would hang out after the show and not leave because they were just talking to each other. And it was a safe space to like nurse your baby in front of, stand-up comedian telling a joke or bring your baby on stage. I had one mom who was a comic who was her baby was crying. It was a newborn, and she gave it to one of the moms who was sitting in the audience, and she just fed the baby with a bottle while she was doing her thing. So the comedian was doing her stand-up, gave the baby to some random mom, and it just all worked. It just felt like, I'm not doing this for the money. I'm doing it for the moms who feel isolated and needing adult time and just not needing to worry about getting a babysitter for 45 minutes. So that started, and that just kind of word of mouth got it going for 2 years until the pandemic hit. And then it stopped, and we started doing just Zoom shows. But obviously it's not as fun when you're doing a Zoom show. Your baby's still there and you still have, it's not really the same setup. And then after that, I just started to produce shows more direct to my niche. So it was more for like women empowerment and empowering mothers, or date night, like giving a reason for moms to be like, hey, I'm going to dress up. I'm going to go out with my girls, make it a girls' night, or bring my friends, or bring my husband or partner or spouse. And so that's what I'm focusing on now too.
When during the pandemic in quarantine, is that when you started on TikTok?
That's when I started on Instagram.
You're on TikTok though?
I am, but I started TikTok late.
Okay.
I was just like, I'm not doing TikTok. I don't know what that is. And I didn't think it was going to be around at all. I thought it was just like a new app. And everybody's like, no, you got to go on TikTok. But I was like a loyal Instagram person. And then I just started dabbling in TikTok, I think a year after the pandemic.
Oh.
I was late to the game.
Wow. So where do you create your content? Like you film it outside of the apps, or do you create it in the app?
Yeah, I created on a third-party app, so I just do like any app like Video Shop. So I film it, then I edit it on third party, and then I use either CapCut, depending if I use TikTok, I'll use TikTok captions. If I use Instagram, I'll do Instagram captions.
Okay.
But yeah, that way you could then use it on any platform.
So when the pandemic ended, is that when you decided, because now you're doing shows all over the place and you're traveling, and when did that start?
That only started recently, like this year.
Wow. And so how has that been, like traveling and stuff?
The traveling part is more manageable. I started doing it in like last fall was my first trip. And I was really worried. I was like, oh my gosh, I had all my friends like, okay, can you walk my kid to school? Can you pick up my kid? Can you do a play date? And then I canceled all the after school activities. I asked my husband, can you beg your mom to help? Just so I felt okay to leave for 3-4 days.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. And they managed. I came back. I was like, oh, it wasn't that bad. You know, they were having fast food every night and pizza, but they did it. And then I did it again this January, but this time I went to just one city. I just went to Vancouver and my family's there. So it was an easy 7-day trip. And my husband was like, hey, I don't even need my mom. I'm like, really? Okay. I just let him handle it. And I came back. Everyone was alive. And then in March, I did it again for like the Alt Summit. And then I did it again for 2 weeks this time, which was harder. The 2 weeks was hard because I had to go through different cities and an international trip. So that was hard on me also because I'm getting older and I really missed my kids this time. This time I actually missed my kids.
2 weeks is long.
It's long.
Yeah.
I came back for like a 20 hour blip. Came back 20 hours and then like try to spend as much quality time with my kids and then left for Boston. And then the Boston Comedy Festival is different. I didn't know I was going to stay for 4 days. So I told my family, hey, it depends if I advance. I probably won't advance. I'm coming back tomorrow. I'm just going to go for one night. And then I advanced to the semifinals and then the finals, which made it hard for me because I didn't know when I was going to come back and it was already stretching it. So this trip particularly was harder on me.
How do these shows get booked? Do you, like, is it you that's doing all the logistics of like booking flights and hotels? Like, it just seems like it would be a lot on top of your already full-time job.
Yeah. The shows I did were already booked. So the producers kind of just came up to me, either DM'd me, usually DMs me on Instagram, finds my email and say, hey, can you do this date? Can you headline here? And when I get a solid booking like that, I will then accommodate and do trips around that date. And the Phoenix one was more of a summit. It was the mom conference. So I knew I was going to go there. The Tacoma was like, well, it's along the way. And then once I know where I'm going to be, it's kind of like a 50-50 thing. So if I know I have a booked show, I'll start calling clubs around that area since I'm already there and try to maximize that opportunity. Be like, hey, I'm already going to be in Tacoma. Can I come in and do a set like at this club? And some will get back to me and some will be like, yeah, sure. And then I'll put that on my roster. And yeah, so it's 50-50. I'll book a lot. I book all the flights, the hotels, all the logistics. Yeah.
So do you ever, because doing stand-up comedy, it's obviously you're up on stage, you're performing. When you're having a super bad day and it's like, oh, I have this booked. Like for me, I record with people. I can easily reschedule something. It's not a big deal. But when you have people that have bought tickets, it's like a show that has been booked for a long time and you're just having like a shit day. Is it easy for you to turn that off and just like morph into Alyce, the comedian?
You know, I love that question because usually I can't get out of my head. If I have a bad day, I'm like, I can't talk to this person. I'm like bitchy to my husband. I'm crabby to my kids. I don't even want to call my mom. But and this happened. I was having like a very stressful day. My husband was out of town. I had a babysitter and I had a show planned at 7 p.m. And I was talking to a friend. I was like, it's so stressful when I plan shows when my husband isn't around because I have to rely on a babysitter. And she's like, yeah, but you booked a babysitter, right? I'm like, yeah, but babysitters can cancel on you anytime. And she's like, yeah, I know that, but why are you worried about that? Lo and behold, an hour later, she texts me. She's like, I was about to leave for the train and I was all dressed and she texts me. She's like, hey, my parents have COVID. I can't come today. I was like, wait, your parents have COVID though, right? I'm like, can you test and just put a mask on? At that point, I was like, I don't care. Just put a mask on. I need you. And so it threw me off. I started, and this is what you don't want to do. You don't want to panic and start calling all your friends, asking if they have a babysitter that is available in the next hour. And so that already put me in such a stressful mode that I was like so upset and I got so resentful about my husband not being in town. And she was negative. She tested herself, but she wore a mask. She came in. I was like, at that point, I was like, I don't care if you have the mask on or not. I'm leaving. I got to the show and my friend noticed I was like shaking. She's like, are you okay? You seem really tense. I was like, yeah, I'm trying to shake off what just happened. And I'm just really stressed out right now. And I was like, I don't think I can do it. Like, I don't know how I'm going to be on stage. And it was the best set I've had. And part of that set got me into the Boston Comedy Festival.
Oh, interesting.
So in festival, a lot of the time, it's something you have to submit a 5 to 6 minute video. And I have been rejected by the Boston Comedy Festival. So I was like, I'm going to be rejected again, but it's fun. I'll just send it in. And that to me proves that, I'm a total different person on stage. I can shut off the Alyce, but I love being on stage and I love the feedback I get from the audience. And usually if you have a really good audience, you have a really good show.
Mm-hmm.
So some of your content could be really, really good, but if you have a shit audience, you're going to feel crappy and you're going to feel like you bombed. And some of my material, when I look at it, I'm like, it wasn't even that funny, but the audience was laughing. And that makes a great show because there's like a feedback and there's that connection that you're building.
Do you find, because even just as someone that creates content, people are always like, you want to be niche, you want to niche down, niche. And I cannot. Like, I've tried, I can't do it. Because if I want to fucking post about Harry Styles one day, like, I want to post about that. And it has nothing to do with being a mom, Like, I've tried to go down the path of only doing mom stuff. I can't do it. It's just not, I just can't. Do you find it difficult? Like, is all your material niche to parenting and motherhood, or is it all over the place?
I'm with you, Renee. I don't think you should niche down. I think you should be your own niche. Like
just,
whatever it is. Yeah. And like people who love you will want to know all parts of your life. You're not just doing mom stuff. And people want to hear about, like, I asked you, I've been waiting to ask you about Harry Styles. Like, how did you do it? How did you and my mayor do it? Like, I want to know about my mayor. And no, I feel like that's so old. I feel like be your own niche. That makes you stand out. That makes you unique. People want to know all dimensions of you. And you're not always just doing mom stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So yeah, I do stuff like, I have a guinea pig. I'll talk about my guinea pig. I have like awkward adulting social situations that I would like to film. And I feel like that's a funny part of me. I talk about my sisters. I talk about my parents. I like to be a little more vulnerable and talk more about like my background and my family. I totally agree with you.
Do you find it difficult to talk about, like if you talk about friends or your husband or your parents? Because as someone that, like, I publish 2 podcast episodes a week for the last 3 years now. So I will talk about my mom or like little things that happen, especially my husband. And I'm like, I look up to people who have a platform where they're just like so open and honest about so many things. And I would love to be that. But I know, like, my mom listens to the podcast. Like, my mayor listens to the podcast. You know, like, do you ever struggle with talking about certain things? Do you ask people's permission first?
No, I never asked for permission.
Okay, good.
I just talk about like what feels safe. I mean, I know what I shouldn't talk about my parents, like their habits. But I'll talk about my husband. He doesn't even follow me on Instagram.
Oh my God, I love it.
Yeah, and I touch on my in-laws, but sometimes I'm like, are they following me? I don't know. But I'm like you. I'm not completely like open book. But there's certain things I'll talk, but there is a limit because yeah, like, you know, in some way I'm still kind of like, I'm a people pleaser and I don't want to upset people. And I'm like, I don't want it to be awkward at Thanksgiving.
Yeah. The thing that I find is I can talk about a situation that happened, let's say with my husband, and I understand that he's well-intentioned, I'm well-intentioned. Like there's no like long-term issue. It was just like this random situation that happened. But then it's how other people read into it and respond that makes me like, my poor husband like gets attacked in the comments. And I'm like, people are projecting their own shit and their own relationship onto my poor husband.
Yes. Yeah. And I see that too, RENEE, like when you talk openly about like, hey, like there was something I really related to. I'm going to the store.
Oh yeah.
What do you need? And I was like, that just happened. And then I'm like, okay, I need, and I'm like, Alyce, come on, scan the room, scan upstairs, scan all the bathrooms. And I totally relate. And then I read some of your comments. I'm like, girlfriend, like just
calm down. It's not that deep.
Yeah, it's talk to your husband or partner or whatever. You have something else going on.
Yeah, something is happening. Yeah. So do you have any advice for moms who, because I was reading on your website how, like, I know your comedy picked up after you had kids, but for a while it was difficult to, like you said, you were doing other things, but it wasn't filling your cup. So, and I feel like that happens so often in motherhood. We have all these hobbies and passions and a life before having kids. And then so much of that just goes to the wayside because we're so focused on our kids and we feel like there's no time or we can't put ourselves first or fill our own cup. So do you have advice for moms who might be in that situation? I always say, like, what are things that you did that you really enjoyed before having kids? And like try and make time for those things. How did you manage that? And was it difficult for you to put yourself first and be like, hey, I'm leaving for the evening or for 4 days?
Yeah. I feel like anytime you physically leave the house, it's hard on you because we're just filled with mom guilt. As soon as we wake up, we're like, what am I doing? Did I wake up too late? Oh, what do I feed the kids? And you're already thinking about the family and caring about them. So I think physically removing yourself from the home is the first thing. And I don't care if it's an hour walk just to start. Because I know it's harder on some people. And then maybe make it like a night out, you know, maybe go out with a friend or maybe do a weekend getaway with a really good friend of yours. Or I don't know, call up an Instagram mom and be like, hey, want to do this? Chances are she'll say yes. I'm lucky I have 2 sisters. So they're always encouraging me to do like, Alyce, you got to take care of yourself. And they convinced me to go to Bali with them 1 year. And I'm like, I can't do that. I have Thanksgiving and I have my 2 kids. Like that's just, no. I'm like, let's just do something local. And they're like, this is a chance of a lifetime. And I had to like really, in my head, I'm like, Alyce, this is a chance of a lifetime. Like, when am I ever going to go to Bali with my 2 sisters? We're all healthy. And I was like, okay, let's just pick a good time. You know, at least I knew which time to go. I'm like, my husband's going to be off for 4 days. That works. He's going to be with his family, like my in-laws. He's going to get support. So that made it easier for me. So figure out how to make it easier on yourself. And maybe sometimes it doesn't work at all, right? But you just have to physically remove yourself, knowing I'm lucky because I have a partner that can be at home. And some people, single moms, it's harder, right? Like, how can you just leave your kids? So that is a hard thing to do, to physically not be there. But I feel like you have to do that for your sanity. Like, even if it means, okay, scrounging up some money and getting a babysitter just so you have one night away, or just like an evening out with friends, relationships, bonding and connection with other people who are going through the same thing as you, or not necessarily, but just having connection, I think.
It can be simple too. I feel like I lucked out because when Milo was a baby, I had to go to Ottawa for 2 or 3 days because I had to defend my dissertation. Like, it was a non-negotiable, like I had to go. So he was home with my husband and everything was fine. And it just kind of like set it in motion for me to feel comfortable leaving. So now, like, I've gone to LA for 10 days and people are always like, oh, like, is somebody there with your husband? I'm like, no, he adjusts his schedule so he can take Milo to school and pick him up, and he won't be on call for those days. Is it hard? Yeah, but I mean, he goes away and I do it. It fills your cup. And I think until people start to slowly, like, until you do it and see how it affects you and acknowledge how nice it is for your kids to see you living a life and having passions and hobbies, like, how special is that? And even I was going to say, like, before having Milo, I would read a lot. And I feel like that just kind of went out the window. And now I make it a point to, before bed, go upstairs, take an hour to myself and just read before I go to bed. So even little things like that, it's like, instead of scrolling my phone and getting zero value or relaxation out of it, because your mind is still going a million miles an hour when you're scrolling your phone, I like shut off everything and just read a book. And it's so rewarding to me. And I had to sit and think, like, RENEE, like, how do you want to spend your evenings, and make like a conscious effort and decide, like, this is what I'm going to do. And now it's just like a part of my routine and I have to do it. But little things like that, like, what fills your cup? Like, are you going to do a half-hour little yoga video or go for walks? Like you said, like, start small and then build up. But yeah, I think it's so important for moms to have a life outside of the house.
Yes. And you touch on that point where when you come home after the LA trip, I'm sure your husband and Milo were happy to see you, but they also saw, like, whoa, mom is like, there's this energy about mom and I want to hear about it. And I see how excited she is. I think it helps them too, to see their mom like going after her passions, and also knowing that, hey, dad's got it under control. Like,
yes,
they see dad doing the thing, they see mom doing the thing, it changes the narrative. And I feel like when this generation of kids grow up, they're going to have a more healthier mindset in terms of like what parent means to them, what parenting is about.
Yeah, like Milo, it's not like I'm the go-to parent. Not at all. If anything, it might even be my husband, because my son is very drawn to like he loves my dad. He loves like my father-in-law. Like, he's drawn to do like manly things and follow them around. But like, because I have left for X number of days at a time, my son, it's not like I'm the person that he goes to for everything, because he knows that we are equal. It's like, if he's upset, he can go to either one of us. If he wants a snack, he can go to either one of us. It's not like, I talk a lot about default parent things, but I don't consider myself a default parent. And I think that's part of it. like he sees that we're both so able to meet all of his needs, which is so nice.
Yeah, and that's how it should be. It's teamwork. It's not like our previous generations. Uh, it should be all hands on deck. Like whoever can do it, do it. And kids need to see that.
Do you have, I wanted to tell you, so a few weeks ago, my friend was putting on this Mother's Day show in Toronto, and she DMs me and she's like, hey, do you want to do a 5-minute stand-up comedy thing at this show? Like, when I tell you my anxiety, like just reading that DM made me like shit my pants. I was like, Renee, you don't have to agree to it. Like, you could say no, but I was still like dying. Because, okay, so fair enough. I've had public speaking anxiety like my whole life. Being on stage and doing a comedy bit is 10 times worse than just going up there and speaking. I died. I ended up not agreeing to it because it was just, I was leaving for London soon. And I was like, I can't put this stress on myself. What is your advice for people who want to get into stand-up comedy? Like, where do you even start? Because after she asked me that, my friend was like, oh my God, you could totally fucking do that. Like, that would be amazing. And now I'm like, fuck, should I be a comedian?
Actually, you would be amazing on stage.
Oh my God, thanks.
Yeah. And this is the thing that you have to get over. There is a lot of anxiety buildup because people think, oh my God, everyone's staring at me and I don't know if I'm going to forget what I'm going to say. We all have that. Every show, I'm like, I got to pee like 5 times before I go on stage. And I'm like, I don't know, I'm nervous. And the nerves is because, you want to do good. But a lot of actually a few moms and some of the Instagram moms you might know were, they would say, oh, I've always wanted to do stand-up comedy. And it was one mom, I won't put her name out there, but she's pretty big now. And I'm like, come do my show. And she's like, what? I'm like, yeah, drive to Brooklyn and I'll put you on my BYOB comedy show. And she did. I was like, work on your material. Let's have a call if you want, and we can go over your stuff. And she's like, okay, I think I'm fine. I'm like, okay, you've got 3 minutes. And she did it. And this is the thing, like, where when I'm producing the show, and if a mom comes up to me, or just like any woman who's like always wanted to try it, but usually it's moms, funny moms. And I know they can do it, but they are like, oh, I don't know if I should do it. I'm like, you know what? No one else is going to put you on their platform. A 25 single dude isn't going to put you on at their club, but I will, because it is so hard to get stage time. And there are so many funny moms and you guys have so much content. And I put her on and I put another mom on and they killed. Like, they did amazing. And I'm like, you can do it. Like, if you want to do it, it means that you're going to kill already. Just the notion of you wanting to do it. And Renee, you have done public speaking and you're funny as hell. So I could totally picture you do it.
Oh my God.
I see you doing your thing. A funny story for 3-4 minutes. I feel like you need to do it. And then when you get the feedback from the audience, that's when you make a decision like, I can keep doing this. Or you're like, done it, bucket list, moving on to the next thing.
Yeah, the goal with the podcast is to eventually do, like, we'll probably do a live event in Toronto later this year. But then I would love to tour, like, let's say 5 major cities and do a live podcast thing. So that'll be kind of dipping my toe into stage stuff. It's so different when you're just at home, like, performing for your phone, I
could totally see you do that because you have such a large fan base and you could totally set it up as your own show, right? We were talking about niching down. It doesn't have to be the typical comedy stand-up show.
Yeah.
It could be you're already funny. You don't have to do like a 10-minute skit. You're interviewing people, you're talking, you're telling your own stories. That's your show.
A game show. We'll play games.
Yeah. You could pull out moms. You can make it interactive. You could dance. You could sing. You could do whatever you want. It's your show.
Are there any comedians that you look up to that you love right now?
Yeah, Amy Schumer,
Yeah.
obviously, especially after she turned into a mom. Jim Gaffigan, he's a dad, 5 kids, I think, at this point. But I love the way that he can just talk about a hamburger for 40 minutes, and it's hilarious. And
Yeah.
it's things that you would have never thought of. Jerry Seinfeld, of course, classic. Ali Wong.
Have you seen all these people live?
I have.
Yeah. Wow. So cool.
I haven't seen Amy Schumer live.
Okay.
I've just been following her along. I've seen Ali Wong live before her divorce. Jim Gaffigan a couple times. Norm Macdonald, so clever. Rest in peace. And Kevin Nealon, I saw him live. He was a SNL cast member, but super funny. And these guys can talk about just the most mundane things for 40 minutes, and that's just clever as shit.
My husband and I had a trip to New York planned in March. We had to cancel it, but eventually I would love to go back, I guess, when it's not so hot, maybe in the fall. Yeah. What are the comedy clubs, the famous ones in New York?
Got to go to Comedy Cellar. Comedy Cellar is the club. Get your tickets online, because if you don't, you end up lining up, and it could be like pretty long of a lineup, and then you might not even get in. So Comedy Cellar, you're always going to see pro comics, like big hitters. They're not going to put average comics up. And The Stand is also a good one. The Stand. So those are the top 2 ones, but if you're going to go to New York and you're going to hit one club, it's Comedy Cellar. It's iconic.
When I was in LA, so we happened to be staying at a hotel that was across the street from the Comedy Store. And so my sister-in-law and I were like, okay, let's just buy tickets. It was like $20 a ticket. We're like, sure. We just like cross over the road, go to our little comedy club. And it was like cute. It was small. It wasn't very big. So we're sitting there and a couple people go on, and then they introduce Aziz Ansari, and he comes on, does like a whole thing. And then he introduces Chris Rock.
What?
Fucking Chris Rock comes out, walks right past me to get up to the stage. I was shitting myself. And so we happened to be there. This was the Friday night before the Oscars. So the Oscars happened on Sunday. So he was like practicing all his material for his tour that he was about to start. So he was on stage with like papers and like putting on his glasses to like read jokes. Like he was up there forever. It was incredible. And then I landed back in Toronto on Sunday night, open Instagram, and it's like Chris Rock was slapped by Will Smith. I was like, I just saw him.
That is crazy. So you saw him working out his material.
Because then he went on tour.
Yes. And yeah, it's funny that I never watched the Oscars, and that was the only time I watched it. And when that was happening, I was like, wait, is this really happening? And I was like, I saw it firsthand. Like,
yeah. I know.
Yeah, that was crazy. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Comedy Store is amazing. LA is Comedy Store, Laugh Factory.
That was the best.
Picked a good show for
oh my
20
God,
bucks.
20 freaking bucks. And you know, the funny thing is, Aziz was like, are there any interracial couples in the audience? And my sister-in-law was pointing at me because my husband's Indian. And so he talked to me for like 10 minutes because he thought it was so funny that my husband's name was Praveshan. He was like, what's your husband's name? And I'm like, Praveshan. He's like, Jesus Christ, he's like, I'm so Indian and I've never heard such an Indian name in my life. And then he was like, this can go one of two ways. Your son either has the most Indian name out there or it's the whitest name out there. And he's like, what's your son's name? I was like, Milo. Oh my God, it was the best. And then he was like, what does your husband do? I was like, he's a urologist, like a penis doctor, basically. He had so much material just from talking to me. It was so funny. Yeah.
Lucky for him, you were in the audience.
I know, right?
Sometimes you can get a crappy audience member and that crowd work just fails.
Do you talk to the audience a lot?
I love doing that
Yeah.
part. Yeah, I do. I integrate it with my material. Like some people are just like, hey, I'm doing my material and that's it.
Yeah.
And some of the crowd love it. And I know, I remember a friend telling me, saying, I hate when comics do crowd work.
I
That's
love
not my
it.
Yeah, and I'm like, you don't like it though? It's like it could go either way. Like the comic could totally bomb, which people love to see, or it could embarrass the shit out of the audience member, which also.
Do you follow Matt Rife?
I just started following him because when I was Tacoma, there was a big billboard that's saying Matt Rife coming to Tacoma. I was like, who is this guy? And so I started following him.
Oh my God, his TikToks are so funny, but he talks to the audience almost the entire show. Like it's hilarious, but you have to be so quick, you know, to be able to respond.
It's a risk. It's like, do you want to open the can of worms? Because it could go either way, depending how drunk that person is, or even if the audience member, like sometimes they don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
They sit in the front. They just don't want to talk to you. You're like the perfect audience member. Like Aziz really lucked out. I'm sure the crowd was rolling.
You're welcome, Aziz.
Yeah.
Obviously, I put him on the map. What was I going to say? Do you have any future plans? Like I know right now on your website it says there's no events coming up, but what are you working on now? Plans to do more shows?
Planning to do more traveling to like cities like DC, going back to Boston. I loved Boston. I was planning to go to Florida, but now I'm not so gung-ho about it. Obviously LA, love the energy in LA. Like everyone's just so happy and they love you no matter what you say. So that's a nice kind of like, I want to feel good LA. And then I'm going to Vancouver to do another show. So I'm producing more so that I could do more of like a headlining show. And then I'm doing a couple in New York before I take off to the West Coast this summer.
That's crazy. So when you say producing, do you mean like putting a show together with other comics?
From scratch.
And so what do you do? Like rent a venue, or do you pitch a comedy club to put the show on?
You pitch a comedy club, or if you want to find a non-comedy club to rent, you could do that. And then you start talking to comics that you want to bring on your show. And I do all the marketing. I like to control everything. So even down to the ticket pricing. So I'm like, I even know like people like, ding, someone just bought 2 tickets. Like I want to know everything. I'm like that.
What's the capacity of the venues that you perform at?
It ranges. So the Boston Comedy Festival, when we were at it was like a theater. So that held like about 1,200 people.
Wow.
But I like clubs because you can actually talk to the audience, and like it could be 100 to 120.
Yeah.
But a nice size is between 50 to 100 at clubs.
Yeah.
It's a nice intimate vibe, and the whole room is kind of like being in the living room with a whole bunch of friends.
Yeah. I'm like so interested in logistics just because I want to do shows. And so I'm like thinking about like capacity, and although my network would be taking care of all the logistics of it, but I'm still like how does it work? You know, like you travel somewhere, like, oh my God, it just seems like crazy, but good for you.
I feel like for your show, you could scope out a nice theater that can house like maybe 100 to 500.
Yeah.
Or even like 1,000, right? Like, and give you enough time to market it. I mean, Cat and Nat, they do that. Oh, there's all these, Meredith from That's Inappropriate. She's doing her own show now. She's doing tour with 2
I don't even know who that is.
Meredith Masony, That's Inappropriate.
That's her profile name or? Yeah. Oh, cool.
Inappropriate. She, and it's not typical stand-up.
Yeah.
It's her own stuff. So she's talking about funny stories. So she tours. I've never seen her show. She toured with 2 other mom comedians, and they did a show, and now she's doing her own show. Cause logistic wise, you can't really coordinate with other moms, be on the same timeline. So she just went off and doing her own, and she's touring now.
Oh my God, that's so cool. I'm going to check her out.
Check her out.
Awesome. Okay. Well, This was lovely. It's so nice to meet you. I hope we do go to New York in the fall and then we can hang out.
It's time to do it, girl.
Okay, so tell everybody where they can find you online and anything that you want to plug.
All my show live dates they're always going to be on my Instagram. So follow me on Instagram, MomComNYC. You can also find me on TikTok when I'm trying out material. It's also MomComNYC.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
And I'm on a roll.